When I think of transformational leadership, I really think about, okay, now how can I come in as a servant leader to serve this community that their emotions were all over the place?
That's Dr. Albert Johnson, Dean of MYP at Uplift Education Ascend High School. A school leader called into a place of uncertainty. He stepped into a community carrying years of loss, fatigue, and fear.
This is based on academic performance on standardized tests, college readiness, a couple of other indicators. Went from 4,000 to ranked 1,750, and then ranked 30th in Minnesota for high schools out of 890 or so.
In just 4 years, Two Rivers rose from a school in transition to one of the top-ranked high schools in Minnesota.
It's shifted from me staying on, I stand where I stand, as fearful inside as I am, but I still have to stand when I stand because I'm not praying on this God's going to get me through it.
By the end of this conversation, you'll learn how to rebuild a school's culture, how to retain and re-engage teachers, and how to lead with faith and resilience. I'm Dr. Matthew Flippen, and this is Transformational Educators. Set the stage for us. Let's talk about what Two Rivers was like before you arrived.
Absolutely. And I had known of Two Rivers prior to me becoming a principal there. And this is kind of just the backstory on that piece. I had been in education since 2007. And through that, starting as a para, if you will, I was looking at the educational system. It's like, okay, am I the only one seeing what's happening here? Because it was not serving my youngest children. And so I decided at that point, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my bachelor's because I'm a high school dropout. So it was a tall order, but I'm going to stay in school. And I was very prayerful on that. I want to make sure I let you know that I was very prayerful. Got my bachelor's in ministries at Northwestern University in St. Paul. Stayed in school, got my master's in organizational leadership. And then you hear this, and I pray, as you pray hard, God said, okay, if you get your bachelor's in ministries, I'm gonna let you go as far in education as you want to, even if you're a high school dropout. So I stayed in school. I said, and someone tapped me on the shoulder and say, hey, Mr. J, you'd be a great principal. I'm like, man, I'm rocking a GED. There's no way I can be a principal. But what they were seeing is my love for children. And I'm like, let me go for it. And so stayed in school, bachelor's, organizational leadership master's, went to Bethel University, got my doctorate in education while also getting my principal licensure.
Wow.
And that was the whole piece. I wanted to become a principal. So now becoming a principal, and I was in a couple of different spaces. I wanted to be closer to my home, which is about 70 miles away from where I was working at the time in St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Okay.
There was an opportunity. Henry Sibley High School was looking for a new principal, and I knew of Henry Sibley High School. Okay. It was about 1,400 students. And I'm like, oh, that's a great size. I think I can do good work there. I did my research. And the school had a student killed. And so there was some hurt in the community. There were some videos. You could see that there was some hurt. I watched a video on the way to my interview of their choir director singing a song. This is through COVID. And so everything was on video. I'm like, maybe there's an opportunity for me to do something there. And so when I get down to Henry Sibley, I do the interview and I hear this say, hey, this space is in need of a healing. I said, so Al, this is the job for you. And so I pushed head on. And I told the superintendent this time, I said, I want this really, really bad. And so that was kind of the start. Side note, this school district encompasses West St. Paul, Mendota Heights, third tier suburb, Egan, third tier suburb. There was a lot of affluence in this community. They were also going, and I say Henry Sibley because they were going through a name change to Two Rivers.
Okay.
So they're already trying to re-identify who they were as a school. I come in now as the first African-American administrator in school's history, which was founded in 1954.
Wow. Okay.
So that's the backdrop of me coming in.
So when you arrived, had they changed the name at that point?
2 weeks before my first day.
Okay, right before your first day. So new principal, new school name, new identity potentially, but a lot of hurt in the past.
Yes, and that's exactly it. And so when I think of transformational leadership, I really think about, okay, now how can I come in as a servant leader to serve this community that their emotions were all over the place. Fearful because a new person coming in. They hadn't had the greatest experience with the last 7 administrators because they had 7 administrators over a period of time.
Wow.
You throw in COVID and distance learning and everything that comes in there with the political and social unrest of this country. There was a lot coming in. What I found was the best thing that happened for me was the West St. Paul reader. The West St. Paul reader said, this roller skating principal is coming into your school, this guy that roller skates. And in this article that he wrote, everything that I've done, every article that you could find online, every video you could find of me online,
They published all of that.
published all of it, and the community had access to it. It was a blessing because they knew what they were getting. They knew that I wasn't going to be an atypical administrator. I've tried to humanize the position, and I'm going to come in. I'm going to love on people because that's all I talked about. So that was me. That was me coming in.
I love that. I love that, Al. And how beautiful that your backstory. I just make sure I heard that correctly. You were a high school dropout. You were working as a paraprofessional in a school. You saw that there was a need and you had a call on your heart to do something about it. And then you started the journey from bachelor's to master's to doctorate. And now, full circle, you are the principal of you've taken on, and you specifically sought after it because it was hurting and needed healing. And you felt like that was your call to go to be there.
Absolutely. And if people are wondering, how do I know it's a call or not? Well, here's the thing. I was looking at being an administrator in Edina, which is an affluent community. I was looking at being the high school principal of the high school that I dropped out of, coming back as a doctor. Wow, how poetic would that have been?
Wow.
Right? I'm like, yeah, there's a story right in there, and I could ride that forever. But then when you go and you walk in a space, you start talking to people, and then you're quiet from it and you listen. Where should you be? All things alike, all pay the same. Then you hear a call. Okay, this is where I need to be, and this is the assignment. This is the assignment. Bring the people back to a space of being able to breathe again. And that's what I took on when I went there.
Fantastic. So help us understand just a little bit about, so when you arrived at Two Rivers, what was student performance like? How were the kids doing academically, or just kind of the general or the typical KPIs that schools would measure?
Yeah. The school was a decent high school. A decent high school. If I were to be able to go to the USA Today Newsweek rankings, or the Newsweek rankings, they rank high schools around the country. When I started there, the school was ranked 4,500 something in the country. It was ranked among high schools in Minnesota between 100 or somewhere in that area. End of my first year, end of the school year, with 1,350 students. Okay. At the end of when I left Two Rivers, enrollment was close to 1,700. So we're talking about a 400 student increase of students number, right? We're also looking at a teacher retention of about 98% teacher retention over those 4 years. Because once teachers got there, and what was great, some teachers left, teachers that had retired, teachers that had gone to other places that were on sabbatical came back. They were hearing some things because there was a move. There was something that was happening that was different. Okay. The national ranking, and this is based on, the ranking is really based on academic performance on standardized tests, college readiness, a couple of other indicators, went from 4,000 to ranked 1,750 in the country, and then ranked 30th in Minnesota for high schools out of 890 or so.
Hey, educators. I hope you're enjoying this conversation. At Graceland University, we believe real change in education starts with compassionate leadership and practical support. That's why we share stories like this. If something in today's episode spoke to you, maybe about your purpose, your next step, or how you can make a bigger impact, I invite you to explore how Graceland walks alongside educators through degree programs and strategic partnerships. Scan the QR code on screen or follow the link in the show notes to learn more. Now let's get back to the episode. Well, let's talk about some of the strategies that you implemented to do that. That's really incredible. I think some may not recognize that, how as even today we're seeing school choice pull students potentially away from schools. It requires that leaders really take a view of like, what do we do to make our culture, our community attractive so that students want to come. And what I heard you say is that, enrollment grew by 30 something percent, over a period of time, and teachers came back and retention went up. So that is fantastic. Well, so help us just see, when you first arrived, what were some of the things that you did to help the community really get behind what you were wanting to accomplish?
I listened. It's the first thing I did. And I let the staff and community know, well, the first year, we're not going to do a lot of changes. We're just going to understand who we are as individuals. I know the power of self-reflection. I know before I can really make a difference anywhere, I got to sit back and ask myself the why. Okay, why are you doing this? What's the motivation? Why should people care? I ask myself those things, and then I'm prayerful about it. I then go and ask the folks I'm looking to serve, what's important to you? I let staff and students know I'm going to build relationships, but the way that I do is very slow. It's one staff at a time. And we can meet as a group, but I really want to know individually who you are. What's important to you? What are your hopes and dreams? When I talk to families, that's my same exact question. What are your hopes and dreams for your child? When I talk to students, my last year was great. My goal was to meet with every ninth grader coming in so I can understand what their hopes and dreams and goals were for the next 4 years, and then start talking with seniors. If this could have been a better school for you, communicating, and then really being authentic. So when I say my door's open, it is. And so building strong relationships and then listening, okay, what would you like this space to be like? And then people tell me about the glory days of Henry Sibley, and I honor that. Even though you walk down the halls of Two Rivers High School, and at first glance, you don't see the history, because I took all the history, the history that you can touch, I took it down. But what I did was, there's a touch screen. I don't know, it's about 80 inches or so. And if you touch on it, you can see yearbooks back to 1954.
Okay.
You can see all their star athletes. You can see all their history at the touch of a button that you couldn't have access to before. I let the folks know that I'm still honoring what we've done in the past, and we're going to build on that because that was the foundation. That put people at ease. I started then doing school tours for class of 1970, 1972, that it was Henry Sibley, and they were so worried about this change. But now they come in and they say, we could have never imagined our school being like that. It is to the point where I try to be so authentic with who I am. Do I have to carry a Bible? No. To love people? No. You just stop and listen. And what's interesting, people now coming into my office and saying, I don't know why I'm crying in front of you. I just don't know why. It's so unprofessional. I said, no, I'm here for the healing. That's why you're crying.
Yeah, what was that? What was happening that a staff was coming in and sharing that emotion? Can you share one of those without violating a confidence?
I can't. It's first off, um, I think Maya Angelou or someone quoted, people will not, well, the two things, people will not remember what you've done. They'll remember how you made them feel. And something about people need to know how much you care. And so I was very vulnerable going in, letting people know who I was. When I was hurting, I let people know that. When I had a nephew commit suicide, I let them know how hurt I was, and some of my own struggles. But I'm here for you. Letting them know, and those spaces that are safe to be vulnerable. I was vulnerable. What that meant was, when I had a staff member come into my office and just sit and not knowing what they were going to do because their wife was in the last stages of the battle with cancer. Did they have to share this with some new guy that they just met months ago? They didn't have to, but the blessing, I told you about that article. It talked about me being a minister. It talked about my faith.
Sure.
And so that was a known. And so making it okay, and I let them know. I said, I see that you're hurting. And what's your wife's name? Great. I said, do you pray? And he said, yeah, we pray. I said, is it okay if I pray for you? And then we pray right there in my office right now. Now, I know that message went out, right? I didn't have to tell the next person that I pray. And so when I have a colleague who lost a child, they know why I'm there. Okay. I share about my growings up with a sibling who is addicted to drugs. They know why I say what I say when it relates to that. They know about my history with domestic violence and me not having a father growing up. So they know why I don't condone fighting in the building and why I'm so aggressive when I when I address it. I think about also then the Beatitudes. Blessed are those that are poor in spirit, right? Blessed are those. When I think about the Beatitudes and who's being talked about there, I look at my school and I look at children and adults and like, okay, who fits this profile today that I need to help support? It puts a whole nother lens on being a leader. It really does. The least of these, when I think of, yeah, who's not being talked about? Who's not being supported? They're the least of these right now. How do we lift them up? Knowing that I'm walking the line between church and state.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think, so what I read, I saw some things about just different ways that you reached out to groups. I mean, one, just you're just a fun, energetic person. Obviously, you see your principal roller skating down the hallway and in the gym and shooting baskets and all that. I mean, no one is gonna not smile when they see that. But I think you also, took some time to reach out to, I'll call them special populations, to make sure that they were seen. Because back to what you just said about the least of these, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think you were probably very intentional about that as part of making sure everybody, all students, are included.
Absolutely. And I learned this when I was in St. Cloud School District. They have a big Somali Muslim community. And I always was unsure, how do I hold on to my faith, not be influenced, but yet walk in the shoes of one's faith. Not walk in their shoes, but try to understand their perspective. And in doing that, I'm reaching out to the imam at the mosque. I can remember sweating the first day I walked into a mosque, thinking, am I doing something wrong? What I found was a couple things. It's vitally important for me to know my community. It's also vitally important for me to know my faith and stand where I stand. And so reaching out to that community is not me turning my back at all to any degree on my face, but it's looking to get an understanding. And if I can show up right there, someone may ask, okay, you seem like you are a very calm, peace, blessed individual. Tell me more about what's happening with you. There are communities of children that are falling away and really don't have faith. And what they're looking for is someone who is standing up and walking right. So this is me wearing my Bible in action. And so I reach out to my Muslim and Somali community. Okay. I reach out to my Hispanic community where I'm at. And I don't, yeah, I will invite you into the building, but I go where they are. I go into the community. Okay. I go to their restaurants. I go to their festivals and celebrations. And so I have a better understanding of who they are. I go down the street. I go down the street to the home for students that struggle, that can't be at home. This is where they live. This is where they do their school. I go there to let them know that they cared about. Okay, and so all throughout that District 197 community, I am in it. I am in it, and so and it gets to be surreal. It gets to be surreal because you get treated like a rock star. I'll be honest. But but it's all about, they know that they love, and they will articulate that. Johnson, we know that you care about our kids. That's outside of the building. Inside of the building, you have to do the same thing for kids. Still have to do the same thing for students. And so that's why we added on 3 or 4 additional student affinity groups, where students can celebrate who they are there. So if you're African American, having an African American culture group, Muslim Americans have their group, our Jewish American students have their groups. There's a Christian Bible study in the building. So having those things where kids can find their people is again just another way of doing that.
Yes. Now, the school, I assume, also had special children with special needs or special challenges. Was there anything specific or unique you did for them or with their families to include them?
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. There's no question that I am a fan of our twice exceptional students. And so I lean in. At Two Rivers High School, there's a coffee shop called Warrior Wake Up, which is run by our real program, which is all students with special needs. And they run it, and it was getting squeezed out, but not until I got there. It is a full blown coffee shop, and in fact, as I'm leaving last year, they've got their 3 container sink that's installed, their new refrigerators, their new signage is up, and they are now making 12, I think she had like $12,000 in, actually she had close to $20,000 in the bank. So she paid for all of her upgrades in the space. She's now donating money to the cheerleading squad, and she's writing checks to other spaces in the building.
Wow,
Okay.
wow.
One
A coffee
example.
shop
Yeah.
run by exceptional students inside of the high school. Is that
Inside of the high school.
wow. Wow.
Inside of the high
Profitable,
school, and
right?
profitable.
Yes,
Profitable,
yeah.
and
Well,
students are learning real skills.
right. Jobs, real world, customer service. What impact did that have on the culture of the school overall? Just that one little element.
You saw empathy. You saw empathy real time. Then you also start to see additional unified groups coming up. When I see unified, so you have a unified gym class now, where students, where we have to put a hold, because we have to put a cap on the number of regular general education students that can get into the class, because so many students want that experience. You have a unified prom where you get general education, special education, their students, they're celebrating together. You have a unified talent show where you get Johnson up there with Joseph, and I'm doing my drum set. I'm on a drum set, he's on a drum set, and we're playing Uptown Funk. It is really pressing into the special population again, and staff members, and they know that. I also, and this is important, but as it relates to our students in special education, making it a priority overall, And so when we reimagined our master schedule, because we brought in a new program, this program is specific to support ninth graders. So we put ninth graders up there, and we input their schedule into the master schedule. We then put in special education because we wanted to make sure that they had all their needs met. Then we put in our EL students, and then we put in our regular education students. And we were so intentional in doing it that way. I know this is more of a strategic move, but we had two, yeah, we had two conflicts of schedules of students out of 1,700. That is being intentional about knowing who your students are, knowing how to set them up for success. And I think those kinds of moves led to the academic attainments and increases that we saw. And so, yeah, so building in with all the different groups, and some more controversial than others. But then I also started student affinity groups of one of my own, which is the Warrior Leadership Team, when I have about 20-25 students that just talk to me about what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I love it. I love it, Al. Yeah, I can imagine how hard it was for you to step away, but I know you'd been there for 5 years and had other plans. Tell me about, just for you personally, what was one of the hardest times that was there where, you were feeling even defeated possibly, and wondering if you're in the right place. Did you have a moment like that, and what'd that look like, and how'd you come out of that?
There are moments that do make you wonder and question, uh, am I the right person for this job? And it came from a challenge that I had from a parent. And this particular parent was very, very intelligent. No question. And even when I Googled this parent, I could see they're very litigious, and they win when they sue. And so there's a little bit of nervousness. And so I'm working with this parent's children that are not behaving well. They're skipping class. They're telling staff members, you can't talk to me, all the things that is so disrespectful and are triggers for me. And so I'll tell the young lady, hey, you need to go to class. And I might not say it in the friendliest way. I'm being very direct. Get a call from a parent saying, why are you accosting my child? And going down that road. And now I'm trying to figure it out. A staff member is addressing the child, and now the parent is going to sue, go to court, and all this stuff. And this is making me question. And literally, seemed like every time I was looking to go visit my kids in Texas, something happens on a Friday, and I'm talking to this parent all weekend, and it's consuming my mind. And it's giving and if you know of this imposter syndrome, it's making me think, am I really as educated as I think I am? Can I really actually do this job? Because you are a high school dropout. You never really was a teacher. So do you really know how to do this? And questioning myself because of that. And so I did. I wondered. And this happened, and I recall it started in December, and it went all the way to April. And so I'm thinking, Mom, maybe this isn't the right school for me. Maybe, but there was a lot of great things that happened in between. The only thing that helped it take a turn, and it was unfortunate, right? We got through the year, and over the summer, the daughter started making really, really bad choices outside of school. So it really wasn't the school's issue. I then get a call from Dad. Hey, Dr. Johnson, this is what's going on. I need your help. It shifted from me staying on. I'm stand where I stand, as fearful inside as I am, but I still have to stand when I stand because I'm not praying on this. God's going to get me through it. On the other side, the family saying, yeah, everything that you're doing was exactly what my children needed, and I couldn't see it. I'm a new dad. I thought this is what I thought I needed. This is how I thought I needed to come at
Wow.
you. And so I apologize. I know I was coming at you. I know I was coming at you hard. Yes, sir, you really were. And I realized I got to the point where I told all my staff, if this parent ever calls you, don't talk to them, send them to me. Let me take all the darts. Let me take all the hits. And so that one particular situation made me wonder. Um, if I could share with you, though, I think the most transformational point of me being an administrator when it was. And it wasn't when I was at Two Rivers. It was actually when I was at an alternative high school in St. Cloud. And I'm on the climb. I want to be I want to be a principal of a traditional high school. Then I want to be assistant superintendent. Then I want to be superintendent. And I was in the middle of writing my dissertation, and I talk about this a little bit in some of my writings. But then in comes this young lady. Her name is Allie Campbell, and Allie has a boyfriend who is a knucklehead, I'll say. And he hits on my trigger. I don't like sagging pants, and he's sagging his pants down to his ankles. I don't know. And so I'm like, Allie, this might not be the right kid for you, but she's at an alternative high school, so she already has her own traumas. It was on a Sunday that I get a call from our superintendent that Allie had been killed.
Oh no. Oh
That
no. Mm,
situation changed me.
mm.
That situation changed me because I was so focused on what I wanted to do in my life. My dissertation, I was already down the road of knowing what I wanted to focus it on. I learned about trauma and adverse childhood experiences. I saw Allie being killed, and I said to myself, and I was the individual that was the leader of the school that was to get her the diploma, which she was one night school class away from getting. And I wasn't focused on what systems I need to put in position for her. And I took it personal. That was the change of what everything that I did from that point on. So that was February, I think, 2017. From that point on, I had become now I'm a different leader. I saw children differently. I saw teachers differently. I saw the needs of those around me a lot differently. And I understood that it was not about me. God was going to take care of me and put me where I needed to be. And he was going to elevate me if I took care of the work that he had assigned me to do. That was the transformational moment for me. And so then from there, I moved on. Again, so I've had my moments since then, but that changed it for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Al, I can only imagine, how difficult that was, but that you reset your mind to see people fully, right? Not just the children that you're serving. Because I think we can, as leaders, we can look at people, but we also have our to-do list, right? We have our objectives, goals, strategic plan. We have all these things that we're supposed to be doing because we're hired to do this checklist and to have performance. And but in the middle of that, there are people, and people are not checklists. People are, as we share this belief that people are created in the image of God, and so they have such incredible value, and we need to value them. So many children, adults, staff, right? I mean, community don't ever really feel seen, known, or loved. And so the idea that you took your experiences, which are vast, right? I mean, you can relate to a lot of people's stories, and you translated that into being this empathetic leader. And when I say empathetic, sometimes people think soft, and I'm like, no, that's not what that means, right? I mean, still, I can have empathy, and I can hold you to a high standard of excellence. We can have high accountability in our relationship. And in fact, because I understand you more, I can even expect more out of you. I'm going to lower my expectations. It's because in some ways you've walked some really hard shoes. So you can always say, hey, if I did it, you can do it. Right. Yeah.
That's the line.
Don't give me your excuses. Yeah.
Right. That 100%. Um, when you start seeing people through this lens of love, um, that means that I love you so much. I'm not going to allow you to continue making the mistakes that you've been making. And I'm going to be straight with you. I'm going to be honest with you. And how it lands is how it lands because I'm giving. And when I say I'm giving this to you in love, I am. And so when you start talking to people and you start listening to their story, you're able to hear the hurt. Now, let me help you get past that. Let me not get past it, but help me work through it. Let me help you work through it as you're on your journey to be healed, and know that yep, this the loving, caring part of me, and know that I'm a leader. There's a very direct part of me as well. So when I say we are going down this road and this is the initiative, I love you, but you're going.
That's right. That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
because what we're doing is best for kids. Are we in
absolutely.
agreement?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've definitely heard it said that loving someone isn't leaving them where they are. It's recognizing where they are, and it's loving them enough to take them with you, to guide them, direct them, lead them to a new place. Thank you so much, Al, for everything that you've shared today. How can our listeners connect with you or learn more about your work? I think you've written a book recently.
I have. This has been my first venture into attempting to write some of my thoughts. So I've written a book entitled Dr. J. Skates: Confessions of a Roller Skating Principal. And it's just some of the. I'm already working on an additional piece for it. a volume 2, or just a second edition, because what I found is absolutely there's things that I have to admit I didn't know when I first got into education. There's some things I know now I want other people to know. There's some things that we need to stop doing, that we've been doing historically, that we learned at school. I apologize, Bethel and Northwestern. Some things you're teaching, we're going to adjust. And there's some things that I bring into the world, into this work, that just gives me a different lens on how to help students that might look like me coming through. And so that is a piece. I'm at Dr. J at drjskates.com if you want to shoot me an email. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm always willing to share and be a thought partner with anyone.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing your story today. You know, there are so many great things that stood out to me about your story. I mean, it is a story of perseverance. It's a story about being called, you know, caring about people, leading from a position of purpose. I love that you stepped into that school because it was hurting, and you wanted to bring healing to it, and you did. And the results of that speak for themselves. So, you know, I really just want to encourage our listeners to share this story with who might need encouragement today, that's in a hard spot. So if you found today's episode valuable, please share it with a colleague or educator who would benefit. If you haven't already, follow this podcast, Transformational Educators, so that you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and transforming schools into places where everyone thrives. If today's conversation gave you fresh insight or inspired you to lead with purpose, please follow the show and tell a friend. It helps us reach more educators who want to make a difference. For more stories, resources, and tools to support your leadership journey, visit graceland.edu. Until next time, keep leading with courage and care. If you want to keep learning about transformational strategies in education, click the next video.